So over the last few days, while we were debating whatever we do know about the US-India trade deal, there was another deal in the works, and this was between the US and Bangladesh. And why are we talking about it? Because it has real implications on India. Now, the new deal offers Bangladesh a special sort of concession that could completely clobber our textile market, and we're going to take a look at what is really going on. How does Bangladesh's deal affect India? Does it hurt India at all? And what does it mean for our textile market? And what does that tell us really about the relationship that India has with the US and what we can take for granted? So before we get to it, remember, like, share and subscribe, sign up for our membership, and leave us a comment in the comment section as well. So let's take a look at what we know so far. The United States and Bangladesh have agreed on a deal in which the US will lower reciprocal tariffs on Bangladeshi goods from 20% to 19%. This was confirmed in a joint statement released by the White House and also acknowledged by Bangladesh's interim government led by Muhammad Yunus. This is in a White House statement as well. Now, just to remind you, Bangladesh was originally hit with a 37% tariff, which Donald Trump had imposed last year. This really hurt them because a large chunk of the country's economy depends on the textile sector, and the US is the biggest buyer of that textile. It was later reduced to 19% in August last year, and it has been trimmed further. It was reduced to 20% in August last year, trimmed further to 19% right now. So you'd think that, okay, how is that 1% a big deal? Because we're at 18%, they're at 19%. Still seems like we have a better deal. Yes? No. What has happened is, buried in the fine print of that agreement is a crucial commitment that Washington has given Bangladesh. The US has agreed to establish a mechanism that allows Bangladeshi textile and apparel exports to come in at 0% tariff on certain conditions. Now, what are the conditions? The garments must be made using cotton that is produced in the US. And zero duty will be volume linked to how much Bangladesh imports from the US. So Bangladesh's National Security Advisor Rahman said that this will give substantial impetus to the country's garment sector. Remember, like I said, textiles account for 80% of Bangladesh's entire exports. So basically, Bangladesh all of their product is down to 19%, but just textile can get 0% tariff if they use cotton made in the US. Now, let's compare that to India. Why does this bother India? Just days ago, remember, when we actually analyzed the trade deal, we said that the big advantage will be to the textile players because, and the Commerce Ministry also, led by Piyush Goyal, had said that Indian exporters will be on a level playing field or even a better playing field to its competitors, which is Bangladesh, Vietnam, Pakistan, China. And they were all paying higher than us. But now we understand that Bangladesh will not be paying 19 or 20%, they will be paying 0%. The government argued that this push would actually allow India to sort of rise to the top of the textile market. Exporters in Tirupur, in fact, had echoed that optimism. They had even projected that US garment exports will double and they will hit 30,000 crores in shipment and create 5 lakh new jobs. But that was all short-lived optimism, because it now turns out that on paper, while India will pay 18% and Bangladesh will pay 19%, in practice, India will pay 18% and Bangladesh will pay 0% for some certain garments. So obviously this will undercut the Indian prices, they will lock in long-term contracts, and they will shift, the exporters will shift more and more volume to Bangladesh. Now, it's not just the tariff that's going to be a problem. On the other side, the cotton is going to be a problem, and let's see why. Bangladesh, because they have this massive textile business, is the world's largest cotton importer, and they buy almost all their cotton from India. So Bangladesh has been sourcing 70% of the cotton that it uses in its textile industry from India, which is roughly $3 billion annually. Now, under the new US deal that Bangladesh has agreed to or signed, this actively incentivizes Bangladesh to stop buying Indian cotton and start buying American cotton. Bangladesh has already been diversifying, buying more from Brazil and West Africa, but this will obviously accelerate their shift away from India. So India will actually get hit twice as far as the textile sector is concerned. One, lower cotton exports to Bangladesh. Bangladesh will reduce the kind of cotton it's buying from us, and that will hurt the cotton industry. And stronger Bangladeshi competition on apparel. In fact, the markets reacted immediately today. Gokuldas exports fell 3%, KPR Mill dropped 5%, Vardhaman Textiles was down as well, Nitin Spinners was down as well. So roughly between the 3 and 5% mark, all of these intraday cuts we're seeing on these stocks. Even in Parliament, Rajya Sabha MP Priyanka Chaturvedi questioned the government's claims of an Indo-US framework victory. She said basically Indian exports will get hit, that we were just celebrating without fully understanding. Now, can Bangladesh really compete with India for the US market? Yes, that is the case. Bangladesh has lower labor costs than India does. It operates on a massive scale because they had really scaled up their textile this textile sector under the previous government, and now it potentially has zero duty access. But for India, remember, there was an interesting thing that happened for us right before this US deal, which is the Europe deal. So India has zero duty access to the European Union, and EU-India trade deal, which was announced in January, actually opens up a $263 billion textile market, which is in Europe, and that could actually be a really important sort of hedge for India from the American market. So India could raise its EU market share with what is 5% right now to maybe close to 9 or 10%, and that would be $4.5 billion annually. But there are a couple of disadvantages, for Europe in comparison to the US. It's not as easy, even though if you have zero duty doesn't mean zero access, because as we know, Europe has tougher standards on sustainability, chemicals, traceability, carbon disclosure. They have audits, they have a water responsibility, labor responsibility, all of which will have to be met, especially by the MSME textile sector. They might not have the ability to meet it right away. And compared to apparently Turkey and Vietnam, India takes a longer time to actually turn around textiles based on the production that the EU buyers may need. And so we don't have the scale that Bangladesh has, or the proximity that Turkey has in terms of easier shipping, Vietnam, China in terms of integration. So these are all challenges for us, but there is an opportunity there in the European market. But this is only about apparel, right? It's only about the textile. So what it does multiple things. In conclusion, one is we were really counting textiles as one of the advantages of the Indo-US trade deal. That falls off now. We have fewer advantages that we know of that we can actually count. Secondly, it points out to us again that Donald Trump is not a reliable partner, in the sense that you can only take what he says at face value for now, and there is actually no way of telling how this is going to go in the future. Remember, this happened in Europe as well. When he threatened Europe with tariffs, the European Union with tariffs, because they were supporting Denmark and Greenland, they turned around and said, hey, we have a deal. You can't make a deal and then change your mind. But it turns out this is the kind of person he is. So he made a deal, and I don't think this is a case of changing his mind. This is the case of two parallel deals were being discussed and negotiated simultaneously. And he agreed one thing with us, and he's agreed something else altogether on the other side. So not only should India be careful right now about what we have and what we've agreed with Donald Trump, but we also apparently have to constantly watch our back for things he might be discussing or negotiating with other countries and other trade partners that we have across the world, because it does seem that he is looking out for his own interests, which technically is his right to do as the leader of a particular country. But we're going to have to be a little more careful of where that leaves us in this tactical movement. So the next phase of, obviously, India will have to now re-examine what this means in terms of competition. I know the people in the textile industry are looking for information, they're looking for details. We'd like to have more details on our own deal, let alone having more details on what Bangladesh has agreed to. But fundamentally, it leaves us with the same thing, that Donald Trump is a unreliable dance partner, in the sense that we don't really know what else he's doing and what is going to come up in the news tomorrow. And so that makes this entire process far more difficult. In the meantime, as an update, we've received no clarity from the Indian ministries, whether that is external affairs or whether that is the trade ministry, on what exactly the details, what details have been discussed in terms of Russia, in terms of defense. That's still a pretty ambiguous when it comes to the Indian trade deal as well. Leave me a comment in the comment section on what you think of this story. I mean, I personally think that it tells us a lot more about Donald Trump than our trade deal told us, and it really should tell us to be a little more careful about what we celebrate and when.